Dipped in Tone podcast recently did an episode about do we still need amps? And I think that was mostly, that question is mostly centered around, do we need amps today with all the other digital solutions? Do we still need tube amps and boxes with speakers and those things? I have a slightly different question. Because I don't want to, I think people know what I would think about that, and what we would think about that. You know, generally we're very pro digital. My question is,
Except for Jerry.
Hey, Jerry.
Here's my question. Do we need new amps? And what I mean by that is, given that Quad Cortex is huge, Tone X is like the biggest seller of everything, I think, ever. You know what I mean? But Quad Cortex, I know, was the new product that Musician's Friend was the most excited about. And they said it was, I believe they said it was the most successful new product they had ever had.
Wow.
So that's really telling you something. Now, I don't know what categories that exists in.
Sure.
But it also makes sense because things like guitar strings, not like there's a new guitar string that comes out from Ernie Ball. There is, but this isn't an excuse. You wouldn't really treat that like a new product. This is a new platform thing. They were the most excited. They wanted to be the exclusive distributor. They were sold out forever. They were shipping all sorts. Tone X, from what I understand, has been hugely, hugely successful. I can't get any numbers on it, but from the amount of traffic I see online and the amount of people in those groups at those price points, especially at that $199, you know, for Tone X1, crazy successful. Obviously, the Kempers are crazy good deals. You can get a Kemper right now for like $800 used.
I saw one used at Guitar Center the other day for $800.
$800?
Yeah.
That's a good deal, even because even online they're usually listed a little more. But
Wow.
I'm thinking you could get them
Now's your chance,
shipped
Jerry.
to you if you get a good deal. Like if you offer somebody,
Right.
It's, I mean, they're usually the racks. You know, the boards go for more. So we're in that period of time too, where Kemper stages are going for more than the racks. But it's because
Right.
there's so many more racks out there. A lot of times people don't want the rack, even though the rack goes for more than the stage.
Right.
So
So there's tons of digital.
Yeah. And that obvious. You would think that would mean less demand for real amplifiers, that less real amplifiers are being purchased. I don't know if that's true or not, but obviously where we're going, digital solutions are becoming just commonplace and very popular. Do we need amp manufacturers to be designing new amps? Or are we okay with all of the iterations of amps we have? All of the classic Fenders, all the classic Marshalls, and decades of refinement, tweaks that have come from Matchless, Jackson, you know, who else? Who makes the Divided by 13?
Morgan.
Morgan. You know, all these
Benson.
Yeah, Benson. All these companies who have, you know, taken kind of classic designs and made them their own. And then even put in that vein, you know, Friedman, you know, somebody who's done high gain but in a very Marshall-esque way and gone that way. Mesa Boogie, all these. How many more really revolutionary designs are we seeing today? And do we need new amplifiers? Or do we have everything we kind of need to go from here?
I don't think that's a very cut and dry question.
Well,
because
this clip can be as long as you'd like, John.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's a cut and dry question.
Yeah,
because,
it's not.
Because the thing is, the whole time I was thinking, okay, well, what is the relationship between analog amps and digital amps? The relationship so far has been capture the sound of analog amps and put them into a digital format.
Yeah. Or mimic them. I mean, or strictly capture or just mimic them in some way.
For sure. Right? So, there's like the model approach or there's the capture approach.
Yeah.
Either way, you're trying to mimic the sound
yes.
that this thing produces. But, like, nobody's really doing, like, a digital first. I mean, there are.
So what I notice is the last few Helix updates, like the last 3, have been that.
They've been digital first, creations.
Here's a new amp, and it's kind of like this.
But it's a completely digital creation.
Yeah, but it's a unique amp that's similar to this, but you'll notice a lot more gain. The bass is this way, that way. Line 6 seems to be going this direction now. And I find it interesting they're going this direction in all of their update communication because they're the only ones without capture tech.
Right.
and because I don't think they have a new Helix 2 coming out anytime soon.
Right.
I think they're selling well.
What I was going to say is, what you're asking is, have we exhausted all of the sonic options available to us? Obviously not.
Right.
And so, will people continue to iterate on designs forever? Probably. But
do you think the new, because my mind goes here, are the new iterations, the new modifications, maybe things that because digital is so popular, are those new iterations things that would be so difficult in the analog world?
It's trying to stump them.
That they haven't been made, so they won't be, but digital takes off because it's easy to do. Let me give you an example of that. Imagine you send your guitar signal into an amp, and we could rig this up today on the Quad Cortex. And imagine I use a filter, an envelope filter, right? Or I just use some sort of a filter where all the frequencies in my guitar below a certain amount go to one amp, and all the ones above in my guitar go to another amp. So that you really would get a crossover of like, in the low end, this is a Bassman, and in the high end, this is an AC30. And you might also be able to achieve that a bit by miking up both those amps and then EQing the mics in such a way that you're only taking the higher end stuff from one amp and the lower end stuff from another, which is actually kind of how the Hillsong setup is kind of done this way, where the Fender is very bright and the Vox is very mid-rangey and full. They dial it in that way.
Right.
But this could be like a true, every frequency you're hearing below 500 is actually coming from this circuit or this model, and every frequency you're hearing above is coming from here, and there's like a little bit of a crossover fade just to get a natural... I don't know what that, that would be exceedingly hard to do in an analog box plugging in.
for sure.
But super easy to do with a digital splitter running two models.
It honestly wouldn't be. Well, I mean,
but cost-wise, you'd be
Crossovers
building two amps. You might be building,
Oh, yeah.
You'd be building two
Cost-wise, for
power
sure.
sec. You know what I mean? It could be done, but no one.
I guess the whole thing is like, okay, if the only reason analog amps were made now is because, well, they're never going to stop making them.
Sure,
because
there's always going to be demand. Yeah,
because
for sure.
there's a lot of people that that don't even consider digital solutions.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people in very large bands playing all over the world that only use tube amps.
And we love
Irvin
digital
praises.
solutions, and I have a lot of amps. Does everyone here own amps? You own an amp?
I don't.
You don't own an amp right now.
That's
you did up until
crazy.
fairly recently.
Isn't that weird?
That is weird.
When did you sell your last amp? A year ago?
No, I think it was 5 years ago.
No, because you had that bad cat.
That was
Whoa.
I didn't own that.
Okay, but technically it belonged to your work, but you were the music director, and that's
But the
kinda,
last amp I owned was the 3015.
But okay,
know?
but
Yeah.
you made the decision to go buy the amp
Oh yeah.
for
yeah.
the benefit of what you were doing, which was your job.
Yeah.
But you kind of still wanted I mean, you used it, right?
Yeah, amps are cool.
Yeah, there you go. That was
I like amps. All right.
okay, so
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
you kind of had an amp.
Also, I'm here a lot.
Yes, yes.
You have access.
Yeah.
To this.
I only own an amp right now. I only own an amp right now because of profiling it. So I don't plan on like taking it somewhere and
You
playing
like
it.
amps?
Yeah,
I love
come
amps.
on.
Jerry
You
loves
like amps.
I
Jerry
do
loves
like amps.
Go ahead, tell us.
Are we done with
Are you
amps?
ever going to stop buying amps?
No. Do I ever play my amps? No.
That's a different question.
Yeah.
Can I say something though? I borrowed your Princeton one time. That little
Oh,
Princeton
the reissue.
Fender.
Yeah. That thing's sweet.
Dude, it's
Silverface?
It's loud as shit.
It is.
But what I did was
What amp's that? The Princeton?
the little
It's a
Princeton
68 Silverface reissue.
Reissue, yeah,
and
yeah.
I put a pillow in front of it and behind it, and I turned it all the way up in my
awesome.
office. And it sounds so good. And I was like, dude,
it's
this is awesome.
It's awesome.
Can I borrow that amp?
Please.
You really should.
Can
Yeah,
I?
I have like in our guest room are like my two nightstands are Benson's. Like at least they're getting used, you know?
That's
Just sitting around,
ridiculous.
not yeah.
I love that.
So I have.
You're
some,
like, please
But I
don't.
can't bring myself to get rid of them.
You're like,
you
please
know?
don't spill drinks on this.
Right.
But they're here.
here, yeah. In case you want to wake up and play some guitar.
That's awesome. I used to keep a guitar next to my bed, but it was just like an electric guitar sitting in the corner, and the only reason it was allowed is it was that Epiphone Casino, so it was like sort of the most classic.
It looked cool. Had a vibe.
Like, and my wife didn't really mind.
Right.
She more was upset about like the socks that I would throw on the floor in front of it.
That's
Right.
fair.
Yeah.
I used to keep a guitar in my bedroom
Yeah.
just in case you wanted to jam.
Yeah.
You got
You
bored.
never know.
Yeah. Because I'm always like, I'm like done with everything, and like I put the kids to bed, and then I'm like, hey, you want to watch like Game of Thrones? You want to watch this? And then it'd always be like, well, I got to shower.
You're like, I might as well
You're like,
noodle on the
Well, now I'm
guitar.
up here, I just turned off every light in the house. You know,
Can't go downstairs.
I
man.
could watch. I don't want to watch wrestling on Hulu
I could watch-
because they're like 2-hour productions, and then my wife is going to come back in like 15 minutes. You know.
And the
Right.
casino's like, hey.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, we'll play this.
I
for a
got a
little
G
while.
chord.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're always going to buy amps.
I'll always buy amps. Yeah.
You know, it's a great amp. You just reminded me. The Princeton's a great amp, but remember those Princeton recording amps they made? It had a bit, so it was the normal Princeton, but right under the faceplate, if you can imagine, was a silver faceplate, and it had a built-in attenuator.
Oh, that's cool.
reverb,
Oh,
and,
really?
Yeah, and it had a
Vintage?
no. They made them in
Like the 80s?
No, the early aughts, like mid aughts. Look up Princeton recording.
What is an
amp.
aught?
The 04, 05, 01.
When you
02,
were
03.
born, Jerry.
Yeah.
Not the 10s.
Yeah.
We're in the 20s right now.
We're in
I'm
the
not
20s.
that far off.
Jerry is a 90s kid.
89.
How
89!
Oh,
So
okay.
how old are you?
34.
You and Taylor Swift are the same
We're
age.
about
Oh, that's
Same age.
unfortunate.
We're the same age, Jerry. I'm 35.
That's a good way to
I believe
remember
it.
it.
Yeah, I'm 35. He's 34. You guys are a
We're
little
both
older.
50.
By your
The
logic,
grandpas.
he's still 30.
Yeah. Close enough.
Yeah.
HW only recognizes ages in
fives?
Five.
In
I
fives.
only started.
I appreciate
started
that.
fives.
When do you round up?
When you
No,
hit the
when I
next
hit
five.
like
No, you don't
38.
round
next
up.
age, I'll be
You
back
round
for
down.
5 years.
You're still 35 at 39.
Yeah,
You
I'm
round
35.
down until you're 40.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm 35.
So
right
we're
now.
40.
Can I tell you something?
It's a good feeling.
I believe this has changed my outlook since I invented that about a week or so ago.
Yeah.
The odds?
I feel younger.
I guess
The
age,
brain
age
is a
is a
powerful
age
thing.
is a mindset.
I had a
isn't it?
conversation with someone.
It's
and the
not
guy
the
was
20
like,
pounds
I'm
you've
getting
lost?
older. What was that?
It's not the 20 pounds you've lost?
Yeah, maybe. I have.
It's a good observation.
Yeah, that's true. I'm working out every day, and
Taking care of yourself.
yeah, really.
Eating.
But I'm not, and I feel younger, so
Yeah,
I
true.
don't know.
I do a lot of balancing on one foot.
Why?
Well,
You like slacklining or what?
no, just stand here, and then I
Inten-
just lift my foot either in front of me or out or forward in that like weird pose.
Wait, what?
Intentionally?
On purpose?
I balance. Just
This
on
is
one
good
foot.
for you?
How could it not be?
So many questions.
Man,
There's a lot of questions.
there's a lot of things that you do. Can I just, as an observation, there's a lot of things in your life that you do that I've never considered once ever.
And you act like they're normal. Like, well, you know this thing. And we're just like, what?
Yeah,
Ordering
you know,
a
where
pork
you just
leg?
balance on one foot for a little
Right.
while
Well,
just
people
because.
stretch, don't they?
You just balance.
Maybe
Very
some
different.
people-
But
maybe
people
some
work on their
people-
balance like you go to yoga or Pilates a lot
Yeah,
about
but people
balance.
go to yoga or Pilates and
You're
do
just
that.
sitting in this room balancing.
You're like, hold on, I
People
got
sometimes do that
before I
in the
write this
morning,
email,
in
I'm
the
going to stand
morning.
up on one foot for a little while.
Are you exercising?
Yeah, it's part of the lifting, and I work on some balance. I do some squats,
Sure.
and I think balance is important.
I'm
Like,
not
I look-
saying it's bad.
Yeah.
No,
I'm
no.
saying
Just an
you're
observation.
We're making a different case.
when you're a kid, you can stand on one foot, and it's like, whoa, you kind of like start to grow, and you get a little like gangly, and you lose your balance. You know what I mean? But you can do that stuff. But when you get older, if you stop doing it, you lose the ability to do it. And so like, I think it's like, well, I should be able to balance on one foot.
Can I?
Can I? And then it's like, okay, I can lift my foot and stand there for a while. And then it's like, okay, could I lift my foot in front of me? And then it's like, okay, could I stretch out and lift and balance with my hand and my
for
foot?
sure. Yeah.
I'm happy to do this for you after the podcast. But
I was just going to say, are we about to have a competition of who
Yeah.
can stand on
Yeah.
one foot the
After
longest?
the podcast is not as good as in the
In
podcast.
the podcast. People, the
Like,
people
you know
need
what I
to see
mean?
it.
Yeah, once I turn these cameras off, I'll show you guys.
yeah. Do you ever like try to relax? Because I don't want to do it, but I'll show you. There's
Almost
I was
had him.
waiting for it.
okay, anyway. But no, that's a thing. You would.
I
Why
like
did
it.
how did we get here? How did
I don't
we
know.
arrive
We
here?
were trying to talk about amps. Do we need more
We were
amps?
rounding down from
Yeah,
age.
it's a tough...
Oh,
Yeah.
you feel better.
feel
Oh,
better.
I feel younger. I
Yeah.
feel younger. I talked to somebody. He was 55. I'm 35. I said, hey, I've
not true.
I feel like where you're at. I said I can really relate with those feelings. We're kind of a little different stage of life. Your kids are older and moving out. Mine, I just had a kid. That's what you do at 35. And I said So 20 years difference between us. I'm 35, and I feel that way. And he was like, yeah, 20 years difference between and I thought, wait, it
Even though it's really only 18.
Right. Was he 57?
doesn't matter.
Doesn't.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how feeling you're doing it. Anyway, my opinion about this, I think we're good if we never make more amps. I think a lot of now I think because I don't actually see a ton of new cutting edge amps designs really coming out there.
It's more about the
only ones I can
finishes.
think- Yeah, it's a lot about the finishes and little things, little like. To me, now maybe some of it doesn't get. Maybe some of the problem is guitar players. We don't appreciate when something's different. I would say the Match Brave is significantly different enough from a Marshall that I wouldn't say it's a Marshall clone. Played a Marshall, you played them all. But to me, it is significantly different enough from the DC-30 that I would say, what is the matchless sound? It's like we kind of think of the DC-30. It's like for the Vox, we think of the AC-30. The AC-100 sounds different.
Right.
You know what I mean? The 50 is a different amp. But we think of the 30, that's the Vox sound. The Fender sound, we think of a Deluxe or a Twin or something, But for a company like Matchless, it's like there are some designs that maybe are unique and we don't really appreciate them that much. Because we go like this. What's the Phoenix? What's a Matchless Phoenix? Well, it's the DC-30, but it uses EL-34s.
It's always compared to
It's always a
something.
comparison to a comparison. Oh, it's a DC-30. It's an AC-30. And it's like, well, the Phoenix and the AC-30 are pretty far away.
Right.
It's like
It's like our observation years ago when we started really profiling a lot of things. And it's like everything that says that it's Voxy sounds more like each other than an actual
The
Vox.
actual Vox, right?
Right.
Everything tastes like chicken and stuff. Yeah.
Right.
well, it's like the family tree, right? We're all related to Adam and Eve. It's just all kind of trickled
There
down.
you
Yeah,
go.
Yeah.
variation.
It's
The
all
baseline is
Right.
it's all incest.
It's all insane.
yeah, it's
So are amps.
Yeah, exactly.
well, and that's the thing. I feel like a lot of the amps that are coming out now they're adding features. They're adding new like digital features inside of the amps,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They're adding like Rev is doing a lot of like IR loading and DI.
Yeah.
Right. They're doing a lot
Yeah,
of
Sir did too.
right. They're doing a lot
Yeah.
of these like newer features that people are getting out of digital, but they're adding
Joining
them to-
forces.
Yeah, they're like
If
adding
you
them.
can't
To,
beat them, join them.
Totally.
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
will it ever stop? No, of course not. There's money to be made.
Yeah, and
there's-
but
But
I think
does it? I wouldn't say that we're good. I don't think we're
you see you want more. See, and
Yeah.
I look at stuff like in the Kemper, I look at the clarity control, and I look at even controls, and I go, man, the controls on an amp change the amp so much. Having a presence control or a cut on a Vox really changes the way you dial in the amp and the tones that are possible. You can go way brighter with a cut. You can roll the treble way up and then cut the high end down. And so I even just controls can change an amp so much.
Right.
How you dial it in that I go like even on digital, I think there's controls that you can make that you maybe wouldn't be otherwise able to do, or controls that maybe you call like sweetness. Right. And it's like, what's it controlling? Well, it could actually be controlling three things. Could be controlling a little bit of bass, then a little bit of bass and some highs, and then it's taking the mid range down and actually and the last little tenth adding a little bit of doubling. Right. And it's
Right.
like you would sweep this knob and you're getting a sensation,
right.
but you're not necessarily controlling one parameter.
Right.
And in the Kemper, the presence knob actually adjusts the mid range as well. And they told me one time when we made this, people started saying how much they like the EQ on the Kemper. They said when we made some changes, and one of the changes was when we added mid range sweep into the presence. So you actually change the presence on the Kemper, and it's changing some mid range frequencies.
Yeah.
And that can just be a function of like, well, when you add high end, it also can be nice to add a clear sound by getting rid of low mids, which is something you would
Yeah.
do with a guitar a lot. You would, if you want like a lot of thickness, like a tube screamer, you go up 500 hertz, But if you want like clear bass, you boost 100, but then you got to cut like 250 to like 350. You pull that out, all of a sudden your bass is like clear by itself. It's almost like separated from the mid range.
right.
But if you have it all lumped together, you get all that like
it starts to build up.
sounds like a little tweed amp.
Right.
It's like no bass, just that low grumble.
It's like a lot of
But
woofiness.
you pull that grumble out, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, That's more like big amp, like Marshall-y, high mids and bass, right? Anyway,
I think the problem with the problem with digital controls like that though
yeah,
is like that's cool, but you're applying that one kind of presence knob to everything.
yeah,
And that's what's cool about tube amps is that all the knobs they're all labeled the same thing, but they do different things in every circuit, right?
Yeah, that
or
could be-
slightly
yeah,
different
yeah.
things. And, obviously, digital, you could assign, you could have it, you could have it switch to different amps as you roll up the gain. You know what I mean? You could have
Sure.
it swap out entire gain structures if you wanted to.
Yeah.
There's really no limit to what you can do.
Remember I suggested to Christoph that they do a tremolo, and every time the tremolo hits, it's a different profile?
Yeah.
It's like AC30 matchless Fender.
Right.
He's so weird.
Right.
Be cool.
But
Yeah.
like that's what's cool. I don't know. I mean, I feel like that's what's so fun about tube amps is
Yeah.
that they're all unique. And then even, like we were saying with the Gretches before, it's like that's a good example of that kind of guitar.
Okay,
Like
so
you can get different
yeah.
variations even within the same model.
Okay, so you say we need more amps.
I mean, do we have enough sounds available to us right now that we could get whatever we wanted out? Maybe, but we won't. We won't ever stop. So I don't know. I think the question is, and you didn't really come up with the question, like, do we need amps? I think yes. I think we do. Yes.
Jerry, what do you say?
Absolutely.
Sooze?
Amps. I think it's intriguing to think about, do we need new models of amps? And I would say no, but like you asked earlier, kind of in passing, and you're like, well, what if we had said that in 1965? Or
And we just
1970?
stopped then.
And it's like, I think we have enough, guys. We got, Marshall and Vox and Fender. Do we need more amps? And it's like your whole world, right? Like would never have even been created with metal and stuff like that if we're just like, yeah, the Marshall's gainy enough.
Right.
Someone said, no, check out this diesel amp or check out this whatever.
Hughes
this
and
rev amp.
Kettner.
Yeah, and it's like whoa, like the Fender guys never even envisioned that being needed or necessary for music, but it was like we need more. So at any point, it's like in the 80s and the 90s, if we had asked that question, let's stop now.
Yeah.
Let's stop now.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of it's pretentious to say, yeah, now we have everything.
Yeah.
Like we've thought of it all. Stop now.
Yeah.
Because there could be something coming in a couple of years. It's like that's incredible.
Yeah.
We never saw that coming or whatever.
Yeah, I just wonder if it's achieved on digital,
Instead
rather
of
than
analog.
a tube.
Sure.
Or maybe it's like something, I don't know.
Yeah, I like what you said too, John, about right now the limitation is, and I've seen this leveled before against digital. Why is the main thing we're trying to do with digital just make analog again?
Mm-hmm.
Like the future is sort of like let digital be digital and let it be good at what it's good at.
Yeah.
But so far, the ultimate good of a digital thing is make it as analog as possible. Put it in these boxes and confine it, and maybe give it a definition control or something else. But
even like the Neural DSP is like sort of crushing it right now in like the digital space with like, I don't know, I guess their own profiles or their own sounds, right? Their own, like the Neural DSP plugins everyone raves about them and they're great. Most of those are models. They're digital, they're captures of real amps,
Yeah.
yeah.
and they're packaged up into software and it's really cool, but they're not going, at least to my knowledge, there's no like, created like digital first.
Right.
Maybe Line 6 is the only one doing it,
Yeah, and they could just be significantly editing models that exist,
Yeah.
and then in that way creating a new amp. Just like if you significantly edit the schematic of an amp, you at some point are making a new amp,
Right,
like Dumble,
right?
And
I think we've already seen this in the analog world in pedals,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Because like we said before, the amp actually has a tube amp has two jobs. It's make it sound a certain way and then make it loud.
Yeah.
If you remove the requirement of having to make it loud, it's very easy.
Right.
It requires way less voltage, you know what I mean? Way fewer circuits and all of that stuff. And so, that's what we used to, pedals were the first like digital, like you can make it sound a million different ways.
Yeah.
Right. And it was cheaper because it was smaller and all of that. And now, I think there will be, in the same way that's like there's tube amps, and then at some point all of these pedals came along. Right now it's like there's digital solutions, and eventually there's going to be all of these like
other
pedals, like whatever the next like wave of new sounds is going to be that are like, and they're basically probably just going to like alter the sound of a digital thing digitally, but they'll be pedals basically. I don't know what that'll be. The problem is everyone has like their own proprietary format of digital stuff. You can't just, there's no like off the shelf. That's what's cool about analog stuff. It's all just 1/4-inch cables. That's the interface. So as long as the unit acts the way you think it should, then it'll be fine. But
yeah, interesting.
I don't know.
All right. Well, you all say yes. I say no. We got everything we need.
I find that really weird, by the way, that's your stance.
Just playing devil's advocate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More is,
Somebody had to say it.
more is more. All right.